Hi, have you heard of the forgotten war in Sudan? Or did you know about the 12.5 million people displaced? Over 20 million people in dire need for food and shelter? Have you heard about the 150,000 people murdered, actually? Or the tens of thousands of women raped? And over 50,000 people is still missing, considered captive, which is I am one of them. I am one of the survivors of this captivity as I being freed from the war in Sudan. I was a prisoner and a captive by the RSF, or you can call it the Janjaweed, in a war which is considered to be the worst humanitarian crisis in the modern age, maybe since the Second World War or the war between the Hutu and the Tutsi. That kind of level of crimes, but it's far beyond that, because in this war there is atrocities that you can't imagine happening in a modern age. Have you heard about the women who being captive, captured and sold as slaves? Right now, being used in the west of Sudan, in Darfur, and being sold in Chad and Niger. Have you heard of all this? Have you heard of the children who been massacred and butchered in Wad Noura, Al Jazeera, Omdurman, Al Junaina, and El Fasher recently in the refugee camps? Now, this is a war, that's why it's called the forgotten war. It's being forgotten or maybe neglected for many reasons. One of them is just negligence, just Africans killing each other. Second one is being complicit, to hide the reality, the real information, the truthful information about what's going on. And the third one is just ignorance. They don't have the information and the means to just go to get the information. And it's not that important enough. So, and you don't know about it. For that reason, since I came out from captivity, I realized that there is a lot of things that is not right. Not just that is people, they don't know about what's going on. Even the people who knows what's going on, they know a narrative that is not real. Is part of the war itself to feed you information that have nothing to do with the reality on the ground. That mischaracterization or classification of the war itself is a crime by itself. It's not just the crime that is being the people in Sudan being tortured and killed and displaced, but also the complicity of the people, the activists and the media. I'm not saying that all the media is being complicit. That is not true, but the majority kept a blind eye. So the question is why? Why they kept blind eye? Even the one who actually being active and trying to find out what's going on, few of them, really few of them, you can count them in your hand, and I can name them by names. But the rest, they are not bothered. They even when they narrate the story, they narrate false information, which is make them complicit in that crime. For that reason, we started the right narrative to be a sword cutting through all this mischaracterization and informing you with the wrong information. So to become the beacon, to provide the right information to the people, to bring out the stories of the victims, not just the victims in Sudan, because the scenario is similar to many other places. But the one in Sudan is too big to be ignored. Not just because I'm also a victim of it, no. But it's too big to be ignored. So we came in the right narrative to bring out the truthful information, the real story behind what's going on in the ground. What's happening to these people? Why is that happening? Who is involved? So that we can hold them accountable. We are in a time that actually this kind of thing shouldn't have happened, let alone that it's kept in the dark. We believe that is the era of the internet and the social media will shed a light on every corner on the face of earth. But right now, Sudan proved to be a new form of modern colonization and modern type of war. So we have everybody documenting the war in Gaza and what's going on in Ukraine, and straight away they picked up some of what's going on in Congo. But everybody's keeping blind eye on what's going on in Sudan. Not just that. Don't forget, Sudan is under sanctions and under embargo since 1983. The people of Sudan is suffering. And yet the world doesn't know anything about them. It's time for the world to know about what's going on in Sudan. Not just because of the war, but also because it is one of the richest countries on earth. One of the richest and the key door to Africa. The doorway to Africa. The country which is respected by the Africans, respected by the Arabs, by the Muslims, as all of them unite, as this is the people that they respect, and they find them the genuine, honest, respectful people, and yet being portrayed in the Western media or in the international media as warmongers, criminals, and so on. And yet they are the victims. So it's time for you and me and everybody else to start to speak out about what's going on in Sudan, to find out what's going on in Sudan, and what is Sudan, and why Sudan is so important, that actually is being hammered for the last 40 years. So join us in the right narrative. And in the right narrative from now on, we will be publishing 3 lines of documentaries. One is regarding the war itself, the causes of it, the effects of it, the humanitarian side of it, and so on. The other one is about the historical side of Sudan itself. That's why Sudan? And what's the importance of Sudan, and so on. The third one is going to be in an Arabic language, is directed for the Sudanese people, to stand with them, to support them, and also to bring for them a bit of positivity and to lift them up a little bit from they're being suffering and going through. We started the right narrative, but also we have a sister charity, Helping Hands, also right, as a form of humanitarian aid to be at least a little help that we're trying to provide for the people in Sudan in the ground. Please subscribe with us, join us in our campaign, join our movement to uncover the reality of what's going on in Sudan and other locations in the world. People suffering from war, from captivity, from false imprisonment, from torture, human trafficking. And we are not limited to Sudan. We're starting from Sudan. And we will be carrying on and covering and shedding lights everywhere there is victims, they being deprived from their voice. So join us and become with us as a voice for the voiceless. So become with us in the right narrative and be with us the right narrative. Thank you very much. My name is Yaslam Ibrahim Al-Tayyib, and I am a survivor of the war in Sudan and captivity. I am a survivor of the Janjaweed.